doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Critical to the 21st century. Let me just say that both yourself and the Prime Minister and your entire team here in Armenia are blazing the trail towards a brighter and more independent future for Armenia. And we're very happy to be here to show my support for their courage, my support for their vision, my support for their dedication, my support for their willingness to see for the future of their country what it takes to get there. And we're very happy and proud to be a part of it. And we can't wait to do more together. So thank you.
Նրանք Հայաստանը առաջնորդել են մահ կամ ազատություն կարգախոսով։ Մենք այդ կարգախոսը փոխարինել ենք կյանքի պետություն կարգախոսով։ Ոչ թե մահվան, այսինքն մենք չպետք է ընտրենք կամ պիտի մեռնենք կամ պիտի լինենք ազատ։ Մենք պիտի ապրենք եւ լինենք ազատ եւ մեր ապրելու եւ ազատ լինելու երաշխիքը մեր պետությունն է, մեր հայրենիք պետությունը, Հայաստանի Հանրապետությունը, որը մենք սիրում ենք, որը մենք պաշտում ենք, որը մեր երազած երկիրն է, մեր ավետյաց երկիրը, մեր կենաց երկիրը.
He said in the readout that he's trying to encourage the U.S. to withdraw staff from Kyiv. Did you talk to him?
Well, they sent a notice to all the embassies, and I think he was just calling personally to tell me. They told all the embassies to Kyiv's going to be a very dangerous place. Kyiv's been a very dangerous place now for a number of years. Look, the danger in all of these wars as they continue and they go on is that they always have the threat of escalation, of spreading into something new. So I spoke to him yesterday about that and a couple other topics, and obviously Putin had asked him to call me to relay the message directly to the president, which I did, but obviously we had already seen the notice sent out to all the diplomatic facilities. And I said, right now there is no active, scheduled negotiations ongoing with Ukraine, but the U.S. is always prepared to play a constructive and helpful role if that opportunity presents.
שהסכם רע לישראל, כמו שטראמפ עלול להביא מול איראן, יפגע בגוש הימין בבחירות הקרובות?
קודם כל יש דבר, מה שנקרא, שהוא הדבר האמיתי, זה חיי האדם. הסכם רע למדינת ישראל יכול לפגוע בחיי האדם. אני יודע שראש הממשלה נתניהו וכולנו, כחברי קבינט, גם קבינט מצומצם, גם קבינט רחב, גם כממשלת ישראל, לא ניתן לדבר הזה לקרות.
אבל זה
הסכם רע, זה הסכם שיכול לפגוע במדינת ישראל, ואנחנו לא ניתן לדבר הזה לקרות. לא יקרה. הסכם רע לא יהיה, לא יכול להיות, משום שבסופו של דבר, ההסכם רע, זה לא קשור לבחירות או לא בחירות.
יש תמיד אתגרים ואילוצים מדיניים, והחוכמה היא לדעת לנווט בשדה המדיני, ולנווט באופן שבסוף מגיעים לאן שאנחנו רוצים. ואני משוכנע שראש הממשלה שידע, ואני מוריד את הכובע, ונותן לו על זה את מלוא הקרדיט. ידע להביא את הנשיא טראמפ ואת המעצמה הגדולה ביותר בעולם, ללכת איתנו כתף אל כתף להסיר איום קיומי, ולנהל מלחמה מול האיום על שלום העולם, לא על שלום מדינת ישראל, האיום האיראני. אנחנו יודעים להביא אותו גם לחופש פעולה, שיוודא שאנחנו יודעים להכות באויב, ולשמור על הביטחון, שכפי שאמרתי, של האזרחים, בצורה חד משמעית. לכל השבועות האחרונים, ואמרתי את זה גם אתמול בקולי. במקביל להשקעה תקציבית גדולה מאוד בפתרונות טכנולוגיים ואחרים להגנה מפני איום הרחפנים, רחפני הנפץ האלה עם הסיב, הדרך הטובה והמהירה והיעילה ביותר להפסיק אותם. זה פשוט להודיע שעל כל רחפן יורדים 10 בניינים בביירות. ואם היו 7, אז 70. ואם 15, אז 150. ואם יגמרו הבניינים בביירות, אז נעבור לצור ולצידון ולבקה, ונגבה מחירים כאלה בלתי אפשריים מבחינת האויב, כדי להפסיק לחלוטין את הירי הן לעבר חיילינו ולוחמינו הגיבורים, והן לעבר יישובינו.
אזעקות לטייס לא מאוישים, רחפני נפץ, את המציאות הזאת אסור לקבל, אסור לנרמל. אנחנו כבר יודעים איך זה נגמר, כשהם מכילים, הם מסתגלים לשגרת טרור. לא הפעם. הטרלול הזה חייב להיפסק. אני קורא לראש הממשלה בנימין נתניהו, תתקשר לטראמפ, תגיע אליו, דפוק אצלו על השולחן, תבהיר שמדינת ישראל לא מוכנה לקבל, לא מוכנה להכיל. אנחנו לא מוכנים להמשיך מערכות, אלא רוצים לנצח אותן. צריך להוריד את החשמל בלבנון.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I hope you had a good Memorial Day weekend. We did. We gave the team kind of a rest, ran some replays over the last 3 days, and are recharged and ready to go. I hope you're ready to get into it with us. We got a big show today, pretty packed. Got all the big guns. I'll tell you here in a minute, but want to say hello to the crew in the chat. You're cleared hot. Thanks for all the comments. I love the engagement. You know, we're getting so many good comments across our social graph, all our social media. And on other places. We're on Real Clear Defense again this morning. Lots of good comments there. So thank you very much for that. Check out whatfinger.com, great aggregator site. They post a lot of our content. You know, there's some themes that are kind of coming together here. It seems like all of the things we've been focused on, which is ending the wars, supporting Christianity worldwide, it seems like these are coming together. You saw the cold open in Armenia. Prime Minister Pashinyan is essentially giving up on the Christian heritage and becoming a globalist dictator in Armenia, which is the first Christian country. We're not happy about that. We're continuing to report on that. We'll talk about that a little more later. And you saw the Trump administration is going along with that, at least in theory, or at least in public. We're not sure really what's going on behind the scenes, but the Trump corridor, Trump route for international peace and prosperity, the Zhangzhou corridor across southern Armenia from Turkey to Muslim Azerbaijan is operating, and that looks like the focus. But Armenia is giving up its Christian heritage, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And the other issue is Lebanon. You see the Israelis there have said they're not going to let Trump make a bad deal, and they want to go in and bang on the resolute desk in the White House and essentially tell Trump not to make a bad deal, and they're going to flatten Lebanon all the way up into Beirut. So again, that's the first Christian country. So we just want to highlight these things that are going on out there. But we got the big guns with you today. We've got Tom Teague who's going to come on. I'm really looking forward to this conversation about the shift in a major shift in U.S. geopolitical strategy. And we've been talking about this around the edges now for some time, but we're going to get into it with Tom. I may have Brent Beecham come on after if he can have some time. If not, it'll be later this week, to talk about what's going on in Lebanon and in Iran. And then we've got the Iranian Resistance. Shahine Gobadi is going to be with us at the top of the hour to discuss everything on the ground in Iran. So this is the best geopolitical analysis you're going to get anywhere. And we're really, really proud to do that. We have been traveling nonstop, building our source network. We've been literally all over the world in the last month, and we're going to continue that as the team continues to bring you the best coverage out there. All right, let's do the mission brief. I'm your host, Todd Wood. Today is March 26th. This is your mission brief. Russia is going to blow up Kyiv. I'm going to talk to Tom Teague about that. Why are they doing that? But really, I feel like we're coming to the end game here. Israel says it will not let Trump make a bad deal. We talked about that. Armenia's Pashinyan is destroying the Christian heritage. Trump ends colonial rule in Bosnia. This is one you probably haven't heard anywhere else. And Israel to flatten Lebanon. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We've got a lot to talk about today, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
Every day, your data is being tracked, collected, and sold, often without you even realizing it. Big tech companies control your devices, your apps, and the information you share. From your messages to your browsing habits, everything is being monitored and stored. Over time, we've traded privacy for convenience, and most people don't even question it. But what if you could take that control back? That's where Mark 37 comes in. Mark 37 provides privacy-focused phones, laptops, and tablets designed to give you full control over your digital life. With secure systems, expert support, and simple tools, they make it easier to step away from constant tracking and data collection. Because privacy isn't just a feature, it's a fundamental choice. It's about protecting your data, your freedom, and your future. Take back control of your digital life with Mark 37.
And by the way, I wanted to say I'm starting my journey with Sean. I'm going to be getting a Ghost phone and then upgrading to a Ghost computer soon, because I am going to unplug for the Matrix. And you can follow me along on my journey. So mark37.com/CDM is where you want to go to do that. Find the webinar, sign up for the webinar, and learn everything you need to know to get started. And then you can also sign up for a free 30-minute consultation on privacy there at mark37.com/CDM. But I'm looking forward to it, and I have been worried about privacy for some time. So I'm going to be taking the plunge and changing my life and unplugging from the Matrix, and I'm really looking forward to it. So maybe you can join me.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embraer team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. We're going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Want to make sure you heard in the ad for mark37.com. First, the URL is mark37.com/CDM. Don't forget about that. Please go there and sign up for the webinar. It doesn't cost a thing. And you can also sign up for a 30-minute free consultation on privacy. So worth your time, I guarantee you. So mark37.com/CDM and sign up for the webinar. All right. I'm going to bring in the big gun now, Tom Teague. Let's get to it. Tom, how you doing, man?
Good.
we've been talking offline, and a lot. I feel like we're getting to the end game in a few things. What do you think? I mean, Ukraine, Russia, China, is the Middle East.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that there's a shift in our policy that is sort of noticeable, and I think it's a shift away from having to like pull Europe along every time we make a decision on anything like majorly geopolitical. I think the view, and there's a few things that have convinced me of this, but I think that there's been some conversations, maybe back channels, about, there's three major world powers right now: China, Russia, and the US. And if we could just sort of eliminate these proxies that we're all using to sort of fight each other and grant each other sort of a sphere of influence, as long as that didn't interfere with trade, then I think that's the direction the world's going to move in. And I think Trump started that with, what he did in Panama, what he did in Venezuela, what he's done, what he's currently doing with Cuba. And I think that, and even to some degree with Greenland. And I think, part of that is recognizing also for Russia that, we're not going to antagonize them and use Ukraine to try and destabilize Russia. And it's interesting. There was this attack that killed a bunch of civilians in Russia, and they've warned people to get out of the embassies and to get out of Kyiv. And I think, Russia shown an enormous amount of restraint, and not, going after Kyiv to this point. And it makes you ask the question also, like, I mean, is kind of Zelensky, is he kind of playing a double agent right now? Like, I mean, I was just, considering this. It's like, Russia's basically going to take out all the military things, or they're saying they're potentially going to take all the military installations in Kyiv. And, I don't think that Zelensky has ever had the ability to negotiate in the good faith of the Ukrainian people. I think he's at the mercy of, what's that guy's name? Kolomoisky. Yeah. Kolomoisky. And I think, but I saw, like a brief, segment with, Mark Rubio, and he seemed like he was, okay, well, this is what's going to happen. And I know that Ukraine's been flying drones and et cetera over airspace for some of the Baltic countries, which is a big no-no in Russia's eyes. So I think, maybe that's part of the deal, that they kind of leave us alone with, what we're trying to do with Iran. And I think, we maybe leave China alone a little bit more with Taiwan, as long as we can kind of get guarantees that they're not going to stop Taiwan from exporting chips and things that would really hurt us in our sort of AI drive. You notice before Trump had the meeting with Xi, that the Democrats were all over him about Taiwan, which we laughed about in the last time I was on your show, about how, previously when Trump took a phone call from the president of Taiwan, they all lost their shit. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I think that's, there's a couple of things also. Macron was saying, well, the Americans are just going to go and negotiate directly with Russia and China. Well, we should be doing that for our own self-interest. And I think that, I think cutting Europe out is a great thing. And I think you could see a long-term prosperity if we all sort of afford each other our spheres of influence. So I think that's what's going on.
Well, it's Putin has said this a lot, a multipolar world.
It is.
We can't be the single pole anymore, right? I mean, we can protect our own interests and not run around the world spending our blood and treasure protecting everybody else's interests. How about let's protect America and build our economy and rebuild our country. We waste
an enormous amount of energy and money on fighting against these proxies that we all have by design. And there was a press conference with Trump about 3 weeks ago when someone asked him the question if he was angry that China was giving weapons and technology to Iran. And Trump's basically, it struck me, I couldn't believe he said it, but he's like, no, because we're all doing this. I mean, imagine if you can like eliminate that and get rid of these like bullies that we have in these regions that stand against the country. I mean, it's better for everyone. Right.
The
It's
China
better
thing
for
is
China if we
interesting.
stay out of their politics with Taiwan. It's better for Russia if we stay out of their politics with in regards to Ukraine. It's better for us if they stay out of, our politics in the Middle East and ensuring that oil gets through the Straits of Hormuz. I mean, it's better for us if they stay out of Venezuela and Panama and Central and South America. Full stop.
So I agree with all of that. The only thing I would like to happen going forward is for China to stop all the unrestricted warfare against us, like the fentanyl, like, the DEI.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
know?
huge issue. That's a huge,
Yeah.
I mean, China is far from a fair player, and they have a victim mentality. They're a supremacist country, and they basically believe that a lot of the fentanyl stuff, in my opinion, is sort of revenge for the opium that was forced upon them by the Brits and the empire. So it's like, this is a long game. This is payback. And I think that's got to stop. But it's not going to stop unless Trump does what he's doing. And I think part of the good about Trump reasserting ourselves in these regions and the Straits of Malacca and all this stuff is it kind of puts China on a path to behaving more responsibly. They've got something to lose. If they can't get oil, it's devastating for them.
Yeah, that's definitely what's going on here. And you're seeing a lot of creative narratives being created to push back against what Trump is doing in that region, right? Like, I've heard multiple times, well, China's fine. They don't have, we should just leave them alone. Well, that's true, but they have to stop. We have to have leverage. They're not going to just
COVID.
Stop. Yeah, no kidding.
Hello. I mean, there's the media, most media never holds anyone whom, like, in this global kind of player game accountable, right? They got away with murder with COVID. After COVID, we opened up. They took 15 months to open up, and it wasn't because they were really concerned about their citizens getting COVID. It was because they knew that they would jam up the supply chain and cause inflation in the US. They probably convinced Janet Yellen, who was the Fed chairman at the time, the Treasury Secretary at the time. They probably convinced her that it was better to sell short-dated treasuries rather than long-dated treasuries, which has really messed us up big time when rates backed up. So, they play this game where they're trying to wound their opponents over a period of time so they can catch up, and they need to be held accountable for it. I think, hopefully Trump is doing that.
Iran is fascinating. It's like this going back and forth. It's almost like right when we get to a deal, Trump throws a wrench in it, or Iran throws a wrench in it. It's almost like it's like a game that's being played, right? And just to keep.
I think it is. But I also think that the problem with Iran is there's definitely going to be people inside their government who want to end this and want to be wealthy and to get on and to prosper. There's also like hardliners inside that they can't tell that they're looking for a way out of it, and the hardliners don't want a way out of it, and they want to fight to the death probably. So there's and I think that's where a lot of these mixed messages are probably coming from. I mean, I listen to people all day long talk about, why isn't Trump attacking them? Why isn't he doing this? He's tacoing, blah. No one knows what's going on, right? Except for the people who are in the negotiations. There's clearly people in Iran who want to end this. There's clearly people in Iran who are, like I said, who are hardliners. So you don't really know. And a lot of this stuff is maybe just them, paying like lip service to, oh, well, we're not going to give up our weapons. We're not going to do this, when actually there are some who are willing to do that, right? We just don't know.
Yeah. I find I think we're already in the 28 presidential election. You've got Rubio working for one block. You got JD working for another block. You got Tulsi, who just resigned. I think she may run. What do you think? Any thoughts on who the best horse is here?
I mean, the biggest surprise to me has been Rubio.
Yeah.
I think he's been amazing. He's surprised me because he's really sort of taken on the Trump sort of like foreign policy mentality. And I always considered him sort of a rhino before, just his background, who got him there, all those things. but he's been a very big surprise. JD Vance, I mean, I think he's all of those people are acceptable to me. I mean, I think it's fine. I think these are good people that are not necessarily driven by, some some globalist agenda. I don't think any of these people fit in that category, and I think that's good for the country. So
Yeah.
you know,
What about, I think another dark horse may be Tucker. What do you think? I feel like he's
no way.
positioning himself.
No way.
Yeah.
He's got no shot. I mean, I admire Tucker. I listen to him. I think he's got some very good points. Some things he just completely misses the mark on. I mean, I watched him talk about, why companies should have any kind of government like sort of incentive to build businesses in the US. And I'm like, this is how China kicked our ass. Like, we have to play by the same rule book as they're playing to us. I know people
I saw that interview.
Yeah. So like he's kind of turned into this like Hobbit type character who lives on the Shire and just wants to, have his third breakfast and smoke his pipe. And I'm like, that's great in Maine, but that's not how it works for the US. And we can't just sit back and let China and Russia take over the world. We have to be a player and we have to defend our empire to some extent, in quotations. He doesn't get that. And I think he's just kind of gone off the deep end in some of these issues, I mean, and it really is a bad look. I just don't think he's got a shot personally.
The Kyiv thing, obviously Russia's going to make some big moves there. You think they're going to try to end the war? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes. I think this is the acceptable way the war is going to have to end. If Russia is allowing Ukraine to attack Russia and use the other Baltic countries to send drones over to do so, Russia's going to have to put them out. And I think they've been very restrained and have not attacked Kyiv up until this point. But I think it's reached a point where Russia's tired of it and the world just sort of wants to move on. I mean, these guys are stealing money hand over fist as well. And it's such a corrupt regime. It's a joke. And I feel really sorry for the people in Ukraine who've had to endure this and, have lost that. It's been a meat grinder.
Well, the agenda, I firmly believe, is to depopulate the country and bring in slaves. I mean, bring in the Africans. I mean, that's literally what they're doing. They've already talked about
that. Seems what it is elsewhere in the EU, so that would be consistent.
Yeah, no kidding. And talk about Europe. I mean, it all ties together. I heard I had a text from a source saying my wife, her sister just got recruited. She'll be dead within a few weeks. At the front, they're sending women to the front now. It's insane.
It's really horrific, and it's also horrific that it's not being talked about by the media.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a joke.
Yeah, it is. Last subject. I talk about this every time with you, but AI. There's a lot of narrative. You talked about the interview with Tucker. I think that was with Mr. Wonderful. What's his name? Kevin O'Leary.
Karen O'Leary.
Yeah. So there's a lot of narratives being created on both sides. I mean, there are impacts of these data centers on individuals. Water pressure, noise, all that, land, eminent domain. But there's also
this is the argument with fracking, right? Like, it causes earthquakes. There's a lot of, and I think Kevin O'Leary said this, but there's a lot of funding behind this. I mean, so AI is going to be a thing, whether or not we want to be like Tucker and bury our heads in the Shire and just forget about it. It's going to be China. It's going to be so impactful and probably the biggest thing that's ever the biggest change, economic progression that we've ever had. And there's going to be clearly some difficulties getting through it. There's going to be job issues, but on the whole, medicine and you can speak to doctors who are using it. I mean, all the coding, our entire system is built on software. All the developments in math, physics, sciences, everything across the board. It is moronic to try and fight that progress. And I personally think one of the reasons a lot of the politicians are fighting it is because at the end of the day, AI will expose a lot of fraud. It already does. Like if you use Twitter, you look in there and it's like they fact check stuff, but it's like, this was never sent. This was never published. It's like it sort of uncovers it. And if you think about it on a bigger scale, and I've said this before, but all the bills that Congress has that are 6,000 pages full of pork barrels, AI can see that in 2 seconds. It makes the need for politicians to sit in rooms and negotiate with each other go down. It creates more transparency between us and our government. It creates transparency in almost everything. And I think that's the biggest threat, that it's going to end things. It's going to expose the NGOs. It's going to look at, at movements of cash. It's the stuff that like Palantir is doing, it's going to give us a deeper insight to expose fraud from every direction. And I don't understand how that's a bad thing, and people are scared of it, but, ultimately it's going to be China or it's going to be us. And it's much better, just like oil. Like we can sit there and say that oil is a bad business and it's dirty and it pollutes. But if you don't have it, look at what's happening to Europe right now.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. So it's like, and data centers, they're using as much water as a golf course. Are you kidding me? That's like, is that not worth it? And so fine. A lot of people don't want them. Like, would they go without AI? No way. They're going to want to use it. So, I'm a big believer that the data centers should be built out. And I'm a big believer that there's a lot of propaganda against it because of threats that people are feeling in politics and, other places.
Interesting. I said last question, but one more. Crypto, there's, the new legislation going through Congress. The banks don't like it because it's going to pull assets into these stable coins for deposits. Any insight on where you think that's going to go?
I think it's great. I think, the stuff I've heard rumbling around is treasury bills being used to back US dollar stable coins. I think that's a great idea. I think that creates a demand for treasury bills. And there's a lot of dollars in the system in other countries that we could say, you need to put these in a treasury bill stable coin, and it would create demand for that. And that would help us, move some of our debt around. I think it's it creates demand for it. The one thing you did mention is we just had Kevin Warsh sworn in last week.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought his speech was very telling. I mean, there were two economists, this Farnano and Wolf, that put this piece out in 2022. There's a white paper going around on it where they were talking about how raising rates into a supply shock affects future productivity. And I thought that was really interesting. There was someone on CNBC speaking about it this morning, but I think Warsh gave this speech where he talked about Alan Greenspan. And one of the things about Alan Greenspan is he wasn't really a Keynesian guy. He let the economy grow and didn't think that growth was necessarily a bad thing. Now, he made these famous statements like irrational exuberance and things like that. But I think there's going to be hopefully a real big change in the way that the Fed looks at the economy and the way that the Fed looks at growth and all these things, whether or not it's inflationary. And I think there's going to be a change of guard. And I think it's a real positive.
Who's the next one to, be replaced there that's going to enable that, do you think?
Well, I saw some stuff yesterday, and the senator from my state, Tom Tillis, was basically like, he's trying to get Trump to drop this stuff with Powell. And Trump's, I don't know how recent it was, but Trump's like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put the pressure on. I was amazed that Powell would actually, think he's important enough that he needs to stay at the board of governors when he's had such a disastrous relationship with Trump. It's not like these people act like they're equity holders. They're not. They're appointed.
Well, they are equity. They are, what do you call it, stakeholders. I mean, they're for another stake. It's like exactly. They're not for America. They're for, whatever.
I was really surprised that Powell would actually have the nerve to stay there. I mean, he's not. It's not a good thing for the Fed, and there's been a lot of people who are more neutral than I am who have agreed with that point. I think the Lisa Cook thing's still up in the air, But, as it is right now, it's a 4-3 majority with those guys versus Trump's guys. So, that it's going to be, he's got a difficult, road ahead of him. Warsh does, but I think, he's a very smart guy. He's very well respected. He's not too partisan. And I think, he wants to change things in the Fed that are antiquated and haven't worked. And, in my opinion, the Fed, this whole idea that growth is a bad thing, I think part of the problem that we have now is that they raised rates too quickly after we came out of COVID, after telling people they weren't going to do it. And then we've lost productivity now. And it's like, the moment the economy starts growing, the supply chain is not what it should be to allow that growth to happen. So, right when working class people start getting jobs, the Fed always comes in and starts raising rates saying, oh, well, growth is going to create inflation. And then these people are back to where they started. They can't get traction.
Yeah. Well, a lot to go through, a lot to watch. I just think, Powell is an operative for someone else.
Absolutely.
So,
he's a disgrace.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Tom. We'll have you back. Take care. Bye.
Every day, your data is being tracked, collected, and sold, often without you even realizing it. Big tech companies control your devices, your apps, and the information you share. From your messages to your browsing habits, everything is being monitored and stored. Over time, we've traded privacy for convenience, and most people don't even question it. But what if you could take that control back? That's where Mark 37 comes in. Mark 37 provides privacy-focused phones, laptops, and tablets designed to give you full control over your digital life. With secure systems, expert support, and simple tools, they make it easier to step away from constant tracking and data collection. Because privacy isn't just a feature, it's a fundamental choice. It's about protecting your data, your freedom, and your future. Take back control of your digital life with Mark 37.
And by the way, I wanted to say I'm starting my journey with Sean. I'm going to be getting a Ghost phone and then upgrading to a Ghost computer soon, because I am going to unplug for the Matrix. And you can follow me along on my journey. So mark37.com/CDM is where you want to go to do that. Find the webinar, sign up for the webinar, and learn everything you need to know to get started. And then you can also sign up for a free 30-minute consultation on privacy there at mark37.com/CDM. But I'm looking forward to it, and I have been worried about privacy for some time. So I'm going to be taking the plunge and changing my life and unplugging from the Matrix, and I'm really looking forward to it. So maybe you can join me.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with U.S. Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager, and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call U.S. Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
All right, welcome back to the SCIF. Hope you enjoyed Tom Teague. Always really, really insightful. One of my best show guys, I should say. He's just fantastic. Love the way he brings the truth. All right, so I'm waiting on. I haven't heard from Brent Beecham, so he's probably not going to come today. So he's in meetings all day. Thought he could get out, but I don't think that's going to happen. We've got Shahine Gobadi in about 30 minutes from the Iranian Resistance. We're going to find out what's going on the ground in Iran. But let's talk about some stories while we're waiting. First of all, Israel says it will not let Trump sign a bad deal. You should read through this article. This has been Gavir, and then Smotrich, the finance minister. Gavir is the security minister. Just some comments that they put out overnight or this morning to reporters. And Gavir is saying we need to cut the electricity in Lebanon. If the Lebanese government does not control Hezbollah, the territory south of Litani and even south of Zahrani must become a security zone for the state of Israel. We need to cut electricity, destroy the infrastructure, and make it clear to them, if there is terrorism, you suffer. And then goes on to say, they mock us, they call us suckers when we behave the way they expect us to. You even saw that with Europeans learn something. The Israeli government will not let Trump sign a bad deal with Iran. I call on Prime Minister Netanyahu, call Trump, go to him, bang on the table in front of him and make it clear the state of Israel is not willing to accept this, not willing to tolerate this. Interesting comments from the security minister in Israel. Then the finance minister, Smotrich, the most effective way to stop Hezbollah is to simply announce that for every drone, 10 buildings in Beirut will be destroyed. If there are 7 drones, then 70 buildings. If the buildings run out, then we move to Tyre, Sidon, and the Bekaa Valley. We are changing the Middle East. Iran is far weaker today. Look what Gaza looks like. Look what Lebanon looks like. We are completely changing the equations. The war must end with Hamas. No Hamas in Gaza, period. We are 60% of the Gaza Strip, and there will be no reconstruction without demilitarization and without completing the mission, the destruction of Hamas. I'm convinced Netanyahu, and I take my hat off to him and give him full credit for this, knew how to bring Trump and the United States to stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel against the threat. Interesting comments from the ministers in Israel. All right, this is another story on that same subject. Israel to hit the Shia sector in Beirut hard. They're saying after Trump gives green light, U.S. to strike. U.S. actually hit an Iranian ship in the Gulf and some an air defense site in Basra, I believe, overnight or yesterday. And they're calling these defensive moves and don't break the ceasefire, not offensive operations. Take that or leave it. All right, we're going to Zarazm.com right now, our Eastern European site. This one is disturbing. Armenia's Pashinyan continues to destroy Christian heritage, removes Mount Ararat from the passport, openly advocates against Armenian Christian history. Mount Ararat is the historical home of the Armenian Christian people. Armenia was the first Christian country. I've been there. I've been to Echmiadzin, their Vatican of the Orthodox Church in Armenia. Orthodox meaning the original church, down from the way the old Syrians and those in that region used to practice Christianity and still do in some areas. But Pashinyan, the prime minister, is a globalist. He's taken Mount Ararat off the passport, which means it's removing the symbols of Armenian heritage. You know, Armenia lost that area to Turkey. It's now in Turkey, and they're saying he's doing it to appease the Turks, but it still is destroying the heritage of Christian Armenia. He has lost the war, many say intentionally, in Nagorno-Karabakh, another very ancient Christian area of the Armenian kingdom hundreds of years ago. And he's now saying, you know, Armenia was never Armenia, or Karabakh was never for Armenia. We need to not worry about standing up for our history. We just need to be doing what keeps us alive, you know. So that's an ancient argument. Do you fight the machine, or do you just, you know, make a deal with the machine to exist? But Pashinyan is definitely destroying the Christian heritage. You can find that article on Zarazm.com. Here's on the same site, Zarazm.com is our Eastern European site. It covers the old Tsarist empire from Poland to San Francisco in that whole region. But this one is on Russia. Russian Foreign Ministry issues statement on Starblisk. the dorm attack, where several dozen kids were killed intentionally, according to Russia, vows to destroy Kyiv military targets, warns foreign citizens to evacuate. You heard Rubio talking about leaving the embassy in Kyiv, at least being advised to by Foreign Minister Lavrov from Russia. There was a massive strike the other night, but he is saying that more is to come. So obviously we're leadership in certain areas on this reporting. AI is one. The Eastern Europe is another. Ukraine war, Iran is another. We're going to stay in a leadership role on this reporting and try to bring you the best we can on everything out there. All right, here's one that you're not going to find anywhere else. Trump ends colonial rule in Bosnia. And this is an interesting article. This is from our Balkan paper, the Balkan.press. You know, we don't get a lot of traffic from these sites, but they're important for us because we think that knowledge of these areas is critical for Americans to understand. The Balkans has been a region of the world that started wars. World War I comes to mind, was highly involved in World War II. Then you had Yugoslavia, then you had the Balkan Wars. So there's a long history of conflict here between the Christian Empire and the Muslim Empire. It's kind of the breaking point or the meeting point, confrontation point. And the West had ruled Bosnia, a Muslim country or Muslim created country, out of Serbia for some time. And there was called the High Representative in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Christian Schmidt held that position, and he's essentially a dictator in Bosnia, telling the people what to do, and the Trump is ending that. So much going on. We want to keep you aware of it, but that's a fascinating article. All right, we're going to take another break. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. I've got Shahine Gobadi coming on at the top of 15 minutes, second segment in the second hour, and we're going to have a little history lesson prior to that. Be right back.
Nuclear wasn't a product that was developed and to sell, really. What it really was a journey to get me well after my experience trying to immigrate and get married to an American citizen in order to get my green card. Towards the end, they send you for a medical, and that's where they sat me down and gave me 16 vaccines in one sitting. At the time, I knew when I was going through it that it's probably not good, but I didn't realize that I'm about to go through the worst health experience of my life. And that's when I went on this journey and understand that nutrition is actually your medicine. I've always heard the old people say your food's in your garden, but we didn't get it. And your body is always trying to heal itself. I mean, you know, when you cut yourself in a couple of days, it heals. And that is the process of homeostasis. Your body is always every cell in your body is always healing itself. And just like anything, if you bake a cake or you build a house, you need the right ingredients to achieve the result. Now, if you don't have the correct nutrition and you're not eating the correct food, it's like trying to build a house without bricks. Now, a lot of people, they say, what does nuclear do? Nuclear itself does nothing. It's not designed to do anything. Your body does the work. It gives your body all the things it needs balanced in, and it works together to deliver the correct nutritional supplement that you need as a human being to function normally.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Thanks for joining us today. I want to just ask, please sign up for our socials. We really need help on this growing. X is throttling us big time. So please go to CDM_press and follow us on X. Follow us, subscribe on YouTube, CDM, and CDM1 on Rumble. If you could do all of that, it would be really appreciated. We're on any podcast provider. You can find the show afterwards, usually an hour or two afterwards it's posted. And we are the best intel show out there. So please spread the links, spread the word, send links to your friends, tell them about the show, and hit cdm.press a few times a day and hit on a few articles. It's really helpful to us traffic wise. Also, sign up for my.cdm.press, our no ad subscriptions, my.cdm.press. You get access to all of our content. We put out a buttload of content, and you get all of it with no ads popping up, no display ads, no video ads popping up. And you can go between, once you log in, you can go from site to site and get all your news with no advertisements. People love it. It's been really effective for us. It gives us revenue we can count on every month, and it's really, really helpful as we grow. You're going to be seeing a lot of changes to CDM. And on the recent note there on, I just wanted to throw a highlight to Nucleo Boost. Go to cdmnutrition.com and check out the subscriptions. It's cheaper, but it's everything you need. You know, my wife takes about 10 bottles of stuff every night, and that's cool, but you can get rid of all that with cdmnutrition.com with Nucleo Boost. One tablet or a capsule a day. That's or I like the powder, actually. It goes into yogurt, a smoothie, whatever, and it keeps us running here. It's like the maintenance we got to do on the car to keep things going. You know, I'm an old guy. You got to have the maintenance, got to keep going. So cdmnutrition.com, please check it out and subscribe if you want to get healthy and stay healthy. And JB Wells is right. I mean, you notice things right away: hair growth, fingernails, healing. You feel better, your energy's better. So cdmnutrition.com. Thank you. All right, so I've got Shahine Gobadi coming on at quarter after the hour. We're going to do something here. We're going to continue to, one of the other themes that we focus on here is Africa and the Christian communities in Africa. And the stories that you've been told about South Africa are not entirely correct. Surprise, surprise. Nobody's also talking about the white genocide in South Africa and the going after the farmers, where the same thing happened in Rhodesia a while back. And it's interesting. It's worth knowing the history there. And we're going to have some more South Africans on soon to talk about all this. But again, we're an intel show, and we try to make you the smartest in the room. So I'm going to play this video from on Rhodesia. It's about less than 20 minutes and some history on that region. I want you to know. If there's any problem with the sound, let me know. Thanks. Here we go.
Rhodesia won every battle. Its soldiers were disciplined, its intelligence operations were feared, its economy managed to survive under years of sanctions, its farms fed the region, cities worked and institutions functioned. Yet Rhodesia lost the war. Not because it was defeated on the battlefield, but because it lost the diplomatic war and the moral war, and ultimately the support of the very civilization it believed it was defending. The fall of Rhodesia was not simply the inevitable end of an old colonial regime. It was the result of a profound contradiction at the heart of the post-war West. Liberal elites demanded instant majoritarian democracy in a society where the institutions, cultural habits, and civic foundations required to sustain democracy were still fragile. In doing so, they helped destroy one of the most functional states in Africa and delivered its people into the hands of a Marxist-Leninist kleptocracy.
The rest of the world will one day, be persuaded to believe we were right when we resorted to armed struggle.
Now, let me be clear from the start. The lesson of Rhodesia is not that minority white rule was permanently defensible. It wasn't. But the lesson here is that civilization is fragile and institutions matter. Political idealism detached from reality is destructive. Rhodesia's history is unlike almost anywhere else. It began in 1889 when Cecil Rhodes secured a royal charter from Queen Victoria to form the British South Africa Company. The mission was to explore and exploit the land north of the Limpopo River. Rhodes had a grand vision of the British Empire stretching from Cape to Cairo, and Rhodesia was part of building that civilizational dream. With the approval of a local chief to assess the mineral wealth of the lands, Rhodes sent Major Frank Johnson and 250 young British pioneers into the unknown. They travelled in a column of wagons protected by the British South Africa Police. Their task was simple but enormous: raise the Union Jack in the African interior. First at Fort Tule, then Fort Victoria, and then Fort Salisbury. To the Rhodesian pioneers, this was not just an economic venture. It wasn't just about mining or farming or settlement. It was the expansion of British civilization. They saw themselves as bringing law, order, Christianity, commerce, and discipline into the frontier region. Ian Smith, in his book, The Great Betrayal, describes the mentality of these pioneers. He writes that in the center of southern Africa, men of British stock were once more carrying the torch on one of the few frontiers yet to be civilized. And this was no place for faint-hearted men. They had to believe they were serving something greater than themselves. And if they were not, in his words, God sent, then they were at least sent there by Queen and country to spread British civilization. That formed the spirit of Rhodesia. Rhodesians became known around the world as being more British than the British. The fact that Britain would end up turning their back on Rhodesia hurt even more, because Rhodesians' loyalty to Britain wasn't just theoretical. Many put their lives on the line to defend the empire. In the First World War, Rhodesia sent a higher proportion of its white population to serve than any other colony. Thousands of white Rhodesians served alongside black soldiers in the Rhodesia Native Regiment. In the Second World War, Rhodesia again mobilized at one of the highest rates in the empire. So many wanted to serve that the government had to introduce conscription to keep men in the country in strategically important jobs like mining. Ian Smith, who would go on to declare Rhodesia's independence from Britain and lead the country through the Bush War against the Afro-communist insurgents, also fought in the Second World War. His plane was shot down over Italy, but he survived, joined the Italian resistance, escaped back to Allied territory, and then returned to combat. This is why the betrayal to come was so painful. Rhodesians believed they had served Britain faithfully. They had built a functioning British society in Africa. They had fought Britain's wars. And then Britain turned on them. After the Second World War, the old European empires were exhausted. Britain was weak. The United States and the Soviet Union were now the great global powers. Anti-colonial nationalism was sweeping across Africa and Asia. In 1960, the British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan gave a famous speech where he said that the wind of change was sweeping Africa. African nationalism was now a political fact that Britain could no longer resist. In 1960, it was called the Year of Africa. 17 countries gained independence, dismantling hundreds of years of European rule. Many Western commentators tried to draw parallels between Rhodesia and the United States or South Africa, where racial discrimination was entrenched in law. But Rhodesia was different. Rhodesia did not have the same apartheid that South Africa had. South African apartheid was a comprehensive legal doctrine of racial separation. After the Afrikaner National Party came to power in 1948, apartheid was built through all-encompassing laws that classified and separated people by race. Rhodesia's system was different. It did not have the same formal ideology of racial separation. Anyone could have the right to vote once they met certain education, income, and property qualifications. But the result was still white minority rule. In the 1965 election, there were roughly 95,000 white Rhodesians registered to vote and only about 14,000 black Rhodesians. Yet 95% of the population was black and only 5% was white. Rhodesia's defense was that the franchise would gradually expand as more black Africans became educated, acquired property, paid taxes, and integrated into institutions of the state. And this was Ian Smith's doctrine. Evolution, not revolution. Ian Smith did not believe that stable self-government could be created simply by holding an election. He believed democracy required foundations, and those wanting the privilege to participate carried the responsibility of upholding its institutions. It boiled down to a very British desire to uphold good standards.
But I think the fact is in these countries to the north of us that while they started off with this wonderful thing of one man, one vote, they only had it once, because thereafter it became a one-party state, which in other words is virtually a dictatorship. Many of our African people have got enough sense to realize that that could happen here if we went too fast. In other words, if we changed what we believe should be an evolutionary system into a revolution.
To Smith, the post-war liberal establishment treated universal suffrage like a magic formula. Give everyone the right to vote and liberal democracy will naturally follow. But he looked across post-colonial Africa and saw something very different. Once colonial powers withdrew, they handed over nations to people who didn't build them and whose tribal systems were anathema to liberal democracy. The result was coups, one-party states, tribal conflict, corruption, economic collapse, and political violence. To him, the lesson was obvious. If majority rule was imposed before the foundations of constitutional government were secure, before the population could understand the system they were being asked to participate in, the result would not be freedom, it would be chaos. And this was the heart of Rhodesia's conflict with Britain. Britain said there could be no independence unless there was majority rule. Smith said there could be no stable majority rule without gradual preparation of the population. He was not defending Rhodesia as a perfect society. Rhodesia certainly wasn't a liberal democracy. The franchise was limited. The vast majority of black Africans were excluded from voting. But that reality cannot be ignored. But Smith's argument was that the system was not meant to be permanent. It was meant to evolve. Rhodesia was moving towards broader political participation at a pace that would preserve order, prosperity, and constitutional government. The alternative was to hand power immediately over to revolutionary movements that did not have the habits or intentions of liberal democracy. And that was the choice as he saw it: gradual constitutional development or revolutionary collapse. On November 11, 1965, after failed negotiations with Britain, Smith's government issued the Unilateral Declaration of Independence. To Britain, this was an illegal rebellion against the Crown. To Smith, it was a desperate attempt to preserve British civilization from a Britain that no longer believed in itself. And that is the paradox of Rhodesia. It declared independence from Britain in the name of Britishness. It rebelled against the Crown while claiming to defend civilization that the Crown once represented. After Rhodesia's Unilateral Declaration of Independence, Britain and the international community turned against it. Immediately after, the UK announced that it would have no dealings with the Smith regime. They severed diplomatic relations, stopped arms exports, and ended British aid.
Mr. Wilson's answer to the Declaration of Independence has been to outlaw the Rhodesian government and oppose it through economic sanctions.
By a series of orders signed today,
Rhodesia loses the privileges that she's enjoyed as a member of the Commonwealth in the sterling area. The financial privileges of being linked with the London capital market in the sterling area.
Imports of Rhodesian sugar and tobacco have been banned.
The United Nations Security Council passed a resolution calling on states not to recognize Rhodesia or give it assistance. Ian Smith's government was condemned as an illegal, racist minority regime. Rhodesia became isolated diplomatically and economically. Then in 1966, two African movements, ZANU and ZAPU, launched an armed insurgency against the Rhodesian government. This became the Rhodesian Bush War. ZANU was supported by China, while ZAPU was supported by the Soviets. North Korea ran a training camp where they taught insurgents how to use arms and explosives. The Bush War turned into a part of the Cold War. Rhodesia was fighting Marxist-backed guerrilla movements, but instead of seeing Rhodesia as an anti-communist ally, much of the West saw it as an embarrassment. Liberal elites sided against Rhodesia, even though the movements opposing it were authoritarian, revolutionary, and Marxist. Despite sanctions and isolation, Rhodesia managed to build a highly effective military. Its army was small but professional. By the late 1970s, it included both white and black soldiers, and its special forces developed a reputation as some of the best counterinsurgency units in the world. This is why people say Rhodesia won the battles, but they lost the war. Militarily, Rhodesia could hold the line, but politically, it was being strangled, and by the West. By 1978 and 1979, the Smith government attempted to reach a settlement. Minority rule ended, and the country was renamed Zimbabwe Rhodesia. Multiracial elections were held, and the country's first black head of government was elected. But Britain and the international community still refused to accept the arrangement. They insisted that the nationalist guerrilla leaders Robert Mugabe and Joshua Nkomo had to be included. Under pressure from Britain and the United States and South Africa, the Rhodesian government eventually agreed to the Lancaster House settlement in 1979. Britain took control of the country and new elections were held in 1980. Robert Mugabe won. Rhodesia died and Zimbabwe was born. To Britain, this was decolonization. But to Rhodesians, it was betrayal. Because Britain had not simply abandoned Rhodesia, Britain had abandoned Britain in Africa. When the post-war moral fashion of decolonization swept through London, Rhodesia discovered that their mother country no longer saw them as family, saw them as a problem, a remnant of an empire that Britain was now ashamed of. Rhodesia had carried British civilization into the frontier, but when Britain lost confidence in that civilization, it condemned Rhodesia for preserving the very inheritance Britain had given it. Now, whether you agree with Ian Smith or not, it's hard to argue that Zimbabweans of any color were better off under Mugabe. At independence, Zimbabwe had enormous advantages. It had strong agricultural production, functioning infrastructure, competent government, and goodwill from Britain and the entire world. It had every chance to succeed. Instead, as Ian Smith predicted, Mugabe consolidated power and built a corrupt, tribal, one-party state. In the 1980s came the Gukurahundi, the systematic massacre of Nabili civilians by a unit of the Zimbabwean army trained by North Korea. 20,000 people were massacred. It was a genocide. The violence was rooted in the rivalry between Mugabe's ZANU and Joshua Nkomo's ZAPU, whose support base was largely ethnic Nabili. 20,000 people were killed, civilians were targeted, villages were terrorized, and re-education camps were established. This was not the liberal democracy that Rhodesians were promised. It was revolutionary consolidation. Then came the destruction of property rights. The Mugabe regime had initially proposed to purchase land from white farmers and redistribute it to black farmers. Western governments enabled this folly. 48 countries and international organizations endorsed the land program, saying it was essential for poverty reduction, political stability, and economic growth. In the early 2000s, Mugabe's government began to fast-track the land reform through violent seizures of white-owned farms. Commercial agriculture was shattered. Productive farms were taken over, often by Mugabe's henchmen rather than ordinary Zimbabweans, and the results were devastating. Agricultural production collapsed. Exports of tobacco, one of the country's biggest exports, collapsed. Zimbabwe entered one of the worst episodes of hyperinflation in history. In 2008, inflation peaked at an unimaginable 89.7 sextillion%. GDP per capita, a proxy measure for living standards, more than halved. Around 50% of the population now lives on less than $3 a day. The white population fled, and it fell by around 90%. Black Zimbabweans suffered too. Millions were driven into poverty. Many left for South Africa, Britain, Australia, and elsewhere. Life expectancy plummeted by 15 years between 1980 and 2000. It's become one of the most corrupt countries in the world, losing $1 billion a year to corruption. And Mugabe's wife earned herself the nickname of Gucci Grace and the first shopper of Zimbabwe. While the people suffered, the ruling black elite became billionaires. This is why, in light of subsequent events, it's hard not to have sympathy for Smith's warnings and the plight of Rhodesians. Whatever you think of colonialism or minority rule, Zimbabwe under Mugabe has been a disaster for everyone except a tiny ruling elite and their cronies. At independence, Rhodesia had industry, infrastructure, functioning government, and productive agriculture. One generation later, Zimbabwe is now synonymous with land seizures, corruption, intimidation, hyperinflation, and collapse. The West was told that Rhodesia had to fall so that justice could rise. But what rose in its place was not democracy. It was a racist, anti-white, corrupt, and oppressive Marxist regime. Rhodesia is gone. The old Salisbury is gone. The Union Jacks have been torn down. The farms, the institutions, the confidence, the British civilization, all of it now belongs to history. But the questions raised by Rhodesia have not disappeared. How can democracy survive without the foundations that make democracy possible? Can a civilization endure if it no longer believes in itself? Is the pursuit of liberalism an unqualified good? Ian Smith's Rhodesia may have represented an untenable past, but Zimbabwe today has an equally untenable future. Rhodesia, decolonization, and the collapse of a once functioning and prosperous society is what happens when the West embraces liberal idealism regardless of reality. And it's a warning for all of us.
First time ever, we're bringing you MyPillow mattresses and mattress toppers for as low as $99.98. Remember, sleep's all about temperature and pressure points. Whatever sleep needs you have, we have the right technology for you. Like our MyPillow mattress topper, our queen size has over 10,000 individual comfort supports to help relieve your pressure points. And how about our 3-inch Hybrid Plus mattress topper? It's infused with copper and silver to help your body get the restorative sleep it needs. And our MyPillow and Case Coil mattresses, I personally helped develop these mattresses to make sure they have everything needed to give us great sleep. Plus, they're made right here in the USA, and they ship right to your front door absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get MyPillow mattresses and toppers for as low as $99.98 and free shipping.
I'm watching my friends gain more and more weight. And then eventually, I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition-specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
Put silver wings on my son's chest. Make him one of America's best. He'll be a man. He'll test one day. Have him win the Green Beret.
Well, I don't see Shahine Gobadi coming on from the NCRI, the National Council of Resistance in Iran. He's coming to us from overseas. So 2 out of 3 having issues today. So that just gives us more content for the rest of the week, doesn't it? So we'll close the show here. I'll be back tomorrow, 10 to noon, Monday through Friday on the SCIF, the best intel show out there. I hope you feel educated after this. So please support us, our no ad subscriptions, our socials, all of that. We're on podcast. We'll be back tomorrow at 10. Thanks. See you next time.